We'll take a break, and when we come back after this break, we'll get to the next leg of the conversation. And of course, we're also going to talk sports. The World Cup starts tomorrow. I'm sure some people are not aware, but a lot are. Stay with us.
Well, let's talk health. Well, it's 2026, and Ebola is a major concern. DRC, Uganda battling that strain, which is very stubborn. And the case fatality ratio, depending on which area, is quite concerning. Well, Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, has now set up an Ebola task force and released 10 billion naira emergency fund. And, well, it's been described as a presidential task force on Ebola virus disease preparedness and emerging public health threats. So this means a lot of things. The Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, of course, is chairing this. There is going to be partnership with the states, with other agencies of government responsible for travel, health, and the rest. It's sort of a holistic well, breakdown. If you look at it so far, well, the details aren't quite clear yet in terms of who gets what and all of that. But at least this is a start, it would seem. But how well are we handling this? What do we expect? You may think it's in DRC, but you never know. Flights come into the country every day. So I want to push this further to ensure that we get full value. We're joined on the program by Dr. Richard Okoye, Chairman, Save a Life Group, joins us virtually. You're welcome to the program, Dr. Okoye.
Yeah, good morning, Kayode, and everyone. My pleasure being with you today.
Well, it's good to have you. Whenever we have situations like this, we naturally turn to people like you who have a good understanding of these things. We've dealt with Ebola before. We dealt with COVID about 8 years later in 2020 or thereabouts. But we're back now, almost like a cycle. But what do you make of this task force which has been created? 10 billion naira released immediately for NCDC and emergency response, enhanced screening, they say temperature checks, high-risk airlines to watch out for, Uganda Air, Rwanda Air, Air Tanzania, and the rest, reference and isolation centers activated in Lagos and Abuja airports first. Other states that have airports must also be alert, and those who are within the border corridors. What do you make of this plan first?
As a matter of fact, that is a very, very commendable effort by the federal government, and also a step in the positive direction, contrary to what we used to have in this country where everything seems to be ad hoc. You know, and I think this preparedness is a very positive one. However, we just have to also take a lead from our previous experience. Because in as much as this money is meant to be in position to go for surveillance and the rest, it is very, very important we look at holistically the preparedness of the country. Taking our leave, you know, George Santayana in his book in 1905, he made a very profound statement in that Life of Reason. He said, those who cannot remember the past are bound to repeat it. If we look at our trajectory when we have to deal with our response, it has always been ad hoc. And as soon as that particular challenge is over, everybody returns as if it never happened. In 2014, we had a case of the popular July 20, that Patrick Sawyer that collapsed at the international airport. And that started our response then. Later, we got to spend almost about $13 million by the federal government report. And we did a lot of stuff, following up, washing our hands, hygiene, all the necessary things hospital need to do, as well as our burial management. But soon after that, everyone returned as if nothing happened. The infrastructure required that has been made. I got an experience recently. A lady came in from US and got symptoms suspicious of COVID. And the commissioner, who happened to be my friend, called me and said, please, do I have any place where we could be able to test for COVID? I called some of my friends, people I know that coordinated the COVID affair as of that time, and none gave any positive outcome on that. But one made a very important statement we need to consider now. He said to me that we have dismantled all the infrastructures of COVID. But recall that federal government also made mention of spending $3.6 billion in the fight for COVID. But soon after COVID is over, everybody returned. Now, we have a completely different situation in the country. While I look at it, completely different situation, and while this very task force should be able to look deeply, because if we have a scenario like COVID, we may be ending in a healthcare tsunami. 2014, we have a lot of doctors in Nigeria ready, at least volunteering and be available. 2020, we have them, but following COVID, most European countries opened their gate for them. Come in, no visa on arrival. As a matter of fact, we're going to give you residency. And we happen to start that journey of Japa syndrome with letter titled it. 2022, we had complete collapse, reported by also Vanguard, November 2022, all our primary health centers collapsed. Now I can tell you, Kayode, as it stands today, you may not find a single doctor in any of our local communities. It may be anyone you find, probably God will call that individual. And a lot of them are out. And we are now being about to be faced with another challenge. So that's why, to me, at this very short point in time, it's been able to focus the task force to know areas of very important concern that need to be addressed.
Yeah, so Dr. Koh, if we get you correctly, you're saying that the Ebola task force is good, perhaps the release of funds is good, but our preparedness in terms of infrastructure is what is lacking.
Absolutely.
So should this 10 billion naira have been directed to strengthening healthcare infrastructure? And we might ask also what is happening to the funds released to the renovation of healthcare, primary healthcare systems across the country. If from where you stand, from your own assessment, our primary healthcare system are not really built to tackle any pandemic response should it happen?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Bukola. My pleasure meeting you. It's important for us to admit this issue at this particular point in time. Let's consider NCDC, Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, established in 2011. Okay, actually signed into law in November 2018. But one critical thing is important here. As of, by reason of their statistics and their website, they have about 500 workers, staff with them, and also remember when they established, they have one center in Abuja for reference laboratory, also the administrative block there. Then it goes and the geopolitical zone, one in all of them. 2011, we have a population of 164 million to 171 million people. Now we have 70 million, which is over the population of even South Africa, that is 3.1. So it's almost that we have created additional nation, but the capacity is still within the same. That's why we have to, at this particular point in time, also consider human capacity building as the fundamental infrastructure, particularly when it has to do with healthcare. That's why the Japa syndrome is something that if nothing is done and it continues, which we don't have the economic capacity based on our status vis-a-vis the other European and American status, we may not be able to win. So that's why we have to think a little out of box. But if you look at areas to be able to be concerned, taking a leave, why we have a challenge in Ebola in 2014, COVID, yes, we lost 3,155 to COVID in 2020, but there are positives. What did we actually do in 2014 that later contained this? It's supposed to be in public domain in the NCDC website. That these are the things that we have as a challenge. These are the things we do. Even if there are certain medical terminology that will limit the public, the medical professionals who will still be exposed, which will be needed, should have a section in that very website that should be able to say, these are the challenges we have, why we lost this number, and these are the things we were able to put in place. Those statistics are not the kind of thing that should be trashed or say we have dismantled all the infrastructures. And there is a room also for this very task force to come to a point of considering dissemination or decentralization of the activity of the center, considering the capacity or the population explosion right there in Nigeria, that each state should also be involved, because the closer you are to the people, the easier for you to have surveillance, the monitoring. And crazily, unfortunately, Ebola has a long incubation period of 2 to 21 days, which is a real burden when it has to do with the issue of surveillance. So, and the closer the people that have a knowledge of this, the cheaper it's also going to be for you to be in position to do those contact tracing and the rest of them. Absolutely. And at this particular point in time, knowing that Ebola is an RNA virus, but it's of negative sense. Negative sense in the sense that it undergoes a lot fast mutation. That's why we have not been able to have vaccine for Ebola, despite the fact that this month maybe 50 years of being found in Sudan in that 1976 in June, and then later moved to the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And we can talk about the inequalities or seeming inequalities in the health sector, right? But we must also protect ourselves, and I am glad that you have painted the picture as it is. So when the task force is looking at the dashboard and wondering how do we go about this, they can always refer to this conversation and at least have a sense. Because if we've dismantled all of the response that we had for COVID, we're obviously building from the scratch. But we have to thank you so much, Dr. Richard Okoye, for at least keeping watch of the citadel in that sense. Dr. Richard Okoye is a chairman, Civil Life Group. Thank you for your time on the program.